The alarm screams at 6 a.m., and before your feet touch the ground, your mind is already racing through the day ahead. Emails demanding urgent responses. Deadlines breathing down your neck like hungry wolves. That presentation you've been putting off for weeks, now suddenly due tomorrow. The to-do list that grows faster than you can cross items off. Social media notifications pulling your attention in 17 different directions. The modern world doesn't just ask for your time, it devours it, leaving you exhausted, scattered, wondering where the hours went. This is the paradox of our age. We have more tools for productivity than any generation in history, yet we feel more overwhelmed than ever. We chase efficiency like it's the holy grail, downloading apps that promise to organize our chaos, reading books that swear they hold the secret to getting more done in less time. We hustle harder, sleep less, multitask, until our brains feel like overloaded circuits about to blow. And still, at the end of each day, we collapse into bed, feeling like we've accomplished nothing of real importance. But what if the ancient philosophers had it right all along? What if 2,000 years ago, 3 men living in the heart of the Roman Empire discovered principles that could transform not just how we work, but how we think about work itself? Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher, emperor who ruled the most powerful civilization on earth while writing profound meditations on the nature of existence. Seneca, the advisor to emperors who understood that true wealth comes not from accumulating more, but from needing less. Epictetus, born a slave who became one of history's greatest teachers of freedom, but the liberation that comes from mastering your own mind. These weren't academics debating abstract concepts in ivory towers. These were practitioners, men who faced the real pressures of leadership, responsibility, and human complexity. They discovered something revolutionary, that the path to getting things done isn't found in working harder or faster, but in working with profound calm, unshakable focus, and an understanding of what truly matters. They called this philosophy Stoicism, and it holds the key to transforming your relationship with productivity forever. Marcus Aurelius understood something that escapes most of us in our frantic scramble for success. In his meditations, written in quiet moments between governing an empire and leading armies, he wrote about time as the most precious resource we possess. Not money, not status, not the approval of others' time. Every morning, he reminded himself that this day might be his last, not to create anxiety, but to create clarity. When you truly understand that your time is finite and irreplaceable, you stop wasting it on things that don't matter. You stop checking your phone every few minutes. You stop attending meetings that accomplish nothing. You stop saying yes to commitments that drain your soul without adding value to your life or the world. The Stoics had a term for this: clarity of purpose, living according to nature. But they didn't mean abandoning civilization and retreating to the wilderness. They meant aligning your actions with your deepest values, using reason to guide your choices, and accepting that you can't control everything, but you can control how you respond to everything. This is where ancient wisdom meets modern productivity in the most powerful way imaginable. Think about your typical workday. How much of your stress comes not from the work itself, but from trying to control things beyond your influence? Send an email and refresh your inbox obsessively, waiting for a response. You present an idea in a meeting and spend the rest of the day analyzing every facial expression, every pause, trying to read the room and predict the outcome. You pour your heart into a project and then lie awake at night worrying whether it will be approved, celebrated, or criticized. Epictetus, who knew something about powerlessness from his years in slavery, taught the most liberating concept in all of philosophy: the dichotomy of control. Some things are within your control, and some things are not. Within your control, your effort, your attitude, your preparation, your response to setbacks. Outside, your control, other people's reactions, the timing of opportunities, market conditions. Whether your boss had a good breakfast this morning and is therefore receptive to your ideas. When you truly internalize this distinction, something miraculous happens. The anxiety that once clouded your judgment begins to clear. You stop wasting mental energy on outcomes you can't influence and channel all that power into the things you can actually affect. Your work becomes cleaner, more focused. It's more effective, not because you're trying harder, but because you're trying smarter. You're swimming with the current of reality, instead of exhausting yourself fighting against it. This doesn't mean becoming passive or accepting mediocrity. It means becoming strategically calm, when you know you've prepared thoroughly for that. Presentation, you can deliver it with confidence regardless of how it's received. When you've written that report with careful attention to detail and clear thinking, you can submit it without the gnawing anxiety about whether it will be perfect enough. You've done your part well. The rest is not yours to control, and therefore, not yours to worry about. Seneca, who managed vast wealth and political influence while maintaining his philosophical principles, understood that true productivity isn't about cramming more activities into your day. It's about choosing the right activities and executing them with complete presence. He wrote letters to his friend Lucilius about the art of living, and in those letters, he revealed a profound truth. The busy person is often the most unproductive person because they confuse motion with progress. Watch how most people approach their work. They arrive at the office and immediately dive into their email inbox, letting other people's urgent requests dictate their entire day. They bounce from task to task like pinballs, never quite finishing anything completely because something new always pulls their attention away. They schedule meetings to have meetings, create reports that no one will read, and attend conferences that feel important but accomplish little. They mistake being busy for being valuable, and they mistake exhaustion for achievement. The Stoic approach to productivity is radically different. It begins each day with reflection, not the kind of frantic planning that tries to squeeze 27 tasks into 8 hours, but the kind of thoughtful consideration that asks deeper questions. What are the most important things I can accomplish today? Not the most urgent things screaming for attention, but the most important things that align with my larger goals and values. What would make this day meaningful regardless of how others respond to my work? What can I control completely, and what should I release from my mental grip? This morning reflection becomes the foundation for everything that follows.
When you've
identified your true priorities, you can move through the day with the calm confidence of someone who knows exactly where they're going. Distractions lose their power over you because you have a clear sense of purpose guiding your choices. The coworker who drops by your desk to complain about office politics, the social media notification that promises some momentary entertainment, the tendency to check email compulsively, these things can't derail you when you're anchored in conscious intention. But Stoicism goes deeper than just better planning and time management. It transforms the very quality of your attention. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of being fully present in each moment, of bringing your complete awareness to whatever task is before you. This wasn't abstract philosophy for him. It was practical wisdom born from running an empire. When you're completely present with your work, something extraordinary happens. Time seems to slow down. Your thinking becomes clearer. Notice details you would have missed in a scattered state of mind. The work itself becomes more engaging, even tasks that might otherwise feel routine or boring. Think about the last time you were truly absorbed in something meaningful. Maybe you were solving a complex problem, writing something important, or having a deep conversation with someone you care about. In those moments, you weren't checking the clock. You weren't thinking about your next meeting. You weren't mentally rehearsing tomorrow's challenges. You were completely there, and the work flowed through you with an ease that felt almost effortless. That's what the Stoics called living in accordance with nature, being fully human in each moment. Using all your faculties without the internal resistance that comes from wishing you were somewhere else or doing something different. This quality of attention is what transforms routine tasks into meaningful rituals. The Stoics understood that how you do something is often more important than what you do. When you approach even mundane work with complete presence and care, you're not just completing tasks, you're practicing excellence, you're developing discipline, and strengthening your capacity for focus. The way you respond to emails becomes practice. For clear communication, the way you organize your workspace becomes practice for bringing order to your thoughts. The way you handle interruptions becomes practice for maintaining equanimity under pressure. Procrastination. That universal destroyer of productivity loses its grip when you understand it through Stoic eyes. Most procrastination isn't laziness. It's fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not meeting some impossible standard of perfection. You put off writing that proposal because you're afraid it won't be good enough. You delay making that difficult phone call because you're afraid of how the other person might respond. You avoid starting that creative project because you're afraid you don't have enough talent or skill. Epictetus, who overcame the ultimate form of powerlessness and slavery to become a beacon of inner freedom, taught that fear only has power over you when you believe you need to control things beyond your influence. When you accept that you can only control your effort and your attitude, procrastination begins to dissolve. You don't need to write a perfect proposal. You need to write a thoughtful, well-researched proposal and then let others decide how they'll respond. You don't need to guarantee that phone call will go well. You need to make it with preparation and honesty and accept whatever outcome emerges. You don't need to be a master before you begin creating. You become a master by beginning and continuing to create with dedication and humility. This shift from perfectionism to process orientation is one of the most liberating aspects of Stoic productivity. When your worth isn't tied to outcomes you can't control, you're free to take intelligent risks, to experiment, to fail forward. Failure becomes information rather than identity. A rejected proposal teaches you something about what your audience values. A project that doesn't go as planned reveals new approaches worth exploring. Criticism, instead of crushing your spirit, becomes feedback that helps you improve. Marcus Aurelius faced setbacks that would destroy most people's confidence. Military campaigns that didn't go as planned, political opposition from within his own government, personal tragedies that tested his philosophical principles in the crucible of real grief. But he understood that resilience isn't about avoiding difficulties. It's about maintaining your core values and sense of purpose, regardless of external circumstances. This is perhaps the most practical aspect of Stoic philosophy for modern productivity. It makes you antifragile, stronger and more capable after facing challenges rather than diminished by them. When you approach your work with this kind of resilience, you become unstoppable not in the sense of never encountering obstacles, but in the sense of never being stopped by them. Deadlines become opportunities to practice working efficiently under pressure rather than sources of panic. Difficult clients become chances to practice patience and clear communication rather than sources of frustration. Technical problems become puzzles to solve rather than personal attacks on your competence. Budget cuts become opportunities too. Discover what's truly essential rather than reasons to despair about limitations. The Stoics also understood something crucial about the relationship between effort and rest. Seneca wrote about the importance of retreating from the world regularly, not to escape responsibility, but to return to it with renewed clarity and strength. In our always-on culture, we've forgotten that sustainable productivity requires rhythms of engagement and renewal. You can't sprint indefinitely without burning out. And you can't think clearly when your mind never gets a break from constant stimulation. But Stoic rest isn't passive collapse in front of a screen. It's mindlessly consuming, content to numb the stress of the day. It's active recovery time spent in reflection, in nature, in meaningful conversation, in activities that restore your sense of perspective and purpose. It's reading philosophy that challenges your assumptions. It's walking without podcasts or music, allowing your thoughts to settle and clarify. It's practicing gratitude for what you have instead of anxiously planning for what you need to accomplish next. This kind of rest makes you more productive when you return to work. Not because you're trying harder, but because you're thinking more clearly. Problems that seemed insurmountable before your break often reveal obvious solutions after you've given your unconscious mind time to process. Decisions that felt overwhelming become straightforward when you're not making them from a place of mental exhaustion. Creative insights emerge when you're not forcing them, and you've created the mental space for new connections to form. As you integrate these Stoic principles into your approach to productivity, something profound shifts in how you relate to your work. It stops being something you do to yourself and becomes something you do from yourself. Instead of forcing yourself to be productive through willpower and caffeine and sheer determination, productivity becomes a natural expression of your values, your discipline, your commitment to excellence. Work becomes a form of meditation, a practice that develops not just professional skills, but character, wisdom, and inner strength. The emails still come, the deadlines still loom, the meetings still fill your calendar. But you're no longer at their mercy. You respond to them from a place of inner calm and clear priority. You know what deserves your attention and what can be politely declined or delegated. You know the difference between urgent and important, between motion and progress, between being busy and being effective. When challenges arise, and they will arise, you meet them with the steady presence of someone who has learned to work with reality rather than against it. You've developed what Marcus Aurelius called an inner citadel, a core of calm strength that external circumstances cannot shake. This doesn't make you passive or detached. It makes you more effective because your responses come from wisdom rather than reactivity, from strategic thinking rather than emotional overwhelm. Your colleagues begin to notice something different about you. You're still ambitious, still committed to excellent work, but you're no longer anxious and scattered. You bring a quality of attention to meetings that makes them more productive. You ask the kinds of questions that cut through confusion to get to what really matters. You handle pressure with a grace that inspires others to approach their own challenges more thoughtfully. You've become what every organization desperately needs: someone who can think clearly under pressure, someone who can separate what matters from what merely seems urgent, someone who can maintain their principles even when it's difficult. But perhaps the most profound transformation is in how you feel at the end of each day. Instead of collapsing in exhaustion, wondering where the time went and whether you accomplished anything meaningful, you experience the quiet satisfaction that comes from work well done. You've aligned your actions with your values, brought your full presence to your tasks, and made choices from wisdom rather than fear or reactivity. You've practiced the art of caring deeply about your work while holding lightly to outcomes beyond your control. This is what Stoicism offers to the modern world. Not a way to do more things faster, but a way to do the right things with complete integrity and profound calm. It's not about optimizing your productivity for its own sake, but about aligning your productivity with your deepest sense of purpose and meaning. It's not about conquering your to-do list, but about mastering yourself in service of something larger than your immediate comfort or convenience. The path forward is clear, though it requires the kind of patience our instant gratification culture rarely cultivates. Begin each day with reflection on what truly matters. Approach your work with complete presence, bringing all your attention to each task as it comes. Focus your energy on what you can control and release your attachment to what you cannot. Build rituals that support your values rather than just your efficiency. Rest in ways that restore your clarity rather than just filling time. Face challenges as opportunities to practice virtue rather than obstacles to your happiness. Remember that Marcus Aurelius developed these insights while running an empire. Seneca practiced them while managing vast business interests. That Epictetus discovered them in the midst of literal slavery. These aren't theories for people with easy lives. They're tools for people facing real pressures, real responsibilities, real constraints. They work not by making life easier, but by making you stronger, wiser, and more capable of finding meaning and effectiveness regardless of your circumstances. The world will continue to demand your time and attention. Technology will continue to accelerate the pace of change. Your inbox will never be empty for long. Your calendar will rarely be completely clear, and there will always be more work than hours in the day. But with Stoic wisdom as your foundation, you can navigate all of this with the calm confidence of someone who knows their true priorities. The inner strength of someone who has learned to work with reality rather than against it, and the deep satisfaction of someone whose productivity serves not just their career, but their character. True productivity isn't about getting more things done. It's about becoming the kind of person who can do whatever needs doing with wisdom, integrity, and calm effectiveness. It's about building a life where your work serves your values rather than enslaving you to endless busyness. It's about discovering that the secret to getting things done isn't found in the latest app or productivity hack, but in the timeless wisdom of understanding yourself, accepting what you cannot change, and bringing your complete presence to what you can. The ancient Stoics knew something we're just beginning to remember. The most productive life is not the busiest life, but the most intentional one. Not the life that accomplishes the most tasks, but the life that accomplishes the right tasks. With complete integrity, not the life that earns the most praise from others, but the life that earns the quiet respect of your own conscience. This is your invitation to join the ranks of those who have learned to work with profound calm in the midst of external chaos, who have discovered that true productivity flows not from anxiety and force, but from clarity and discipline, who have found that the path to getting things done is the same path that leads to inner peace and authentic fulfillment. The choice is yours, and the time is now.